Konnichiwa, hello, my name is Miki and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be discussing my top 5 favorite foundations for dry skin. I have regular foundation, I have stick foundation, powder foundation. I have foundation that is from drugstore to a little bit mid-range. I don't have any high-end stuff because your girl is broke as hell. I'm just not up to the high-end stuff just yet. So a little disclaimer before we get into the video. If you are super sensitive to profanity or if you are easily offended, this is not the place for you. I am a no-filter bitch and I have no idea what's gonna come out of my mouth, so keep that in mind while you're watching. All right, if you guys are interested in seeing my top 5 foundations for dry skin, then just stay tuned. All right, so a couple of things before we get into these foundations. I cut all my hair off. I have super short hair. This is actually a lot shorter than I wanted it, but I'm okay with that because hair grows and it's really not a big deal. Also, my makeup is looking a little wonky, so don't pay attention to that. I was having a really rough day today. I don't know what it was. I just could not get my shit together. So let's get into these foundations. Something I want to mention is whenever I use these foundations, I'm usually using the same type of primer, the same type of tools. I usually use the NYX Pore Filler or the Too Faced Hangover Replenishing Primer, and that is really great for dry skin. For almost every foundation that is liquid or cream, I always use my Juno & Co. Microfiber Fusion Sponge because this gives the most coverage that is supposed to be from that foundation. So if a foundation claims that it's like medium to high coverage, this sponge will actually give that to you. Whenever I'm using a beauty blender, it takes away coverage and I just don't like that. A brush for me always leaves those stipple marks, so I will always go over it with this. So no matter what, this is always in play. Everyone's skin is different. Everyone has different skin tones, skin types, everything. So you may be seeing foundations that you have tried and you're like, girl, nah, that didn't work for me. Well, it worked for me. So I'm just here to share with you guys my top 5 foundations for dry skin. So the first foundation that I'm going to be talking about is the Tarte Shape Tape Hydrating Foundation. I absolutely love this foundation. I reach for this or the next foundation that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm actually wearing it right now. I feel like this is absolutely great for dry skin. I don't know why anybody's talking about it besides the fact that in the beginning of 2018 when this actually released, it was so controversial because the shade range just sucks. There's no real like deeper, darker shades for those dark beauties out there, and honestly I don't feel like this actually even goes pale enough. I think this is the second lightest shade, I'm not sure, but this is in porcelain. This retails for $39. I was so dumb because I did not get it while it was on sale, and this thing is like dwindling really fast. I'm about halfway, a little less than halfway right now, but I just love this foundation so much. It is like my go-to foundation. I'm gonna be swatching each foundation on the back of my hand, and we're gonna have 5 different foundations so you guys can kind of see like the color difference, the shade difference. There is the shade right there. As you can see, it is very close to my skin tone. Now the claims for this online is that it's buildable, it's a luminous finish, it hydrates and plumps skin, refines pores, won't crease, cake, or fade. If you guys see me looking down, it's because I have notes, okay? I worked hard on this video. What I did is I went online, did some research, found out the claims of each foundation, what the brand claims that that foundation does, and then I went and made my own claims by wearing the foundation throughout the day, taking pictures of the coverage and all that good stuff. And I just want to share the claims, the pros and cons, and also like what it did for my skin. All right, so back into the Tarte Shape Tape. Now this, I actually really like the applicator. I know a lot of people don't like these doe foot applicators because they say it's really gross and unsanitary. But girl, you should be washing your goddamn face before you put any freaking makeup on because that's just nasty. So there should be no reason why that's unsanitary because your face should be clean before application anyway. Now, one of my pros is that it is very lightweight feeling. You're not going to feel like that cakiness or like you have a shit ton of foundation on your face. And when a foundation is lightweight or feels lightweight, it is less likely to crease and cake on you. Also, depending on the powder that you use. Also, I want to state the powder that I use for all these foundations is, of course, my tried and true, my number 7 pressed powder, which I will leave the link down below. Of course, everything I talk about in this video, and that's on my face, will be linked down in the description box if you guys want to check it out. So the other pros for this, for me, is that it is medium coverage. Now, I won't go as far to saying that it's high coverage or anything like that. It is straight up medium coverage. As you can see, I still have a little bit of my hyperpigmentation, my dark spots going, but you can't really see any acne on my face. I actually have a couple breakouts down here and you can barely see them. For me, my standards of a high coverage foundation is very fucking high. I mean, that shit has to look like I painted my face and there's nothing peeking through. And I have not found a foundation that does that exactly yet. So all my foundations are usually like high medium coverage. I'm sorry, I just have a really high expectation when a brand claims that a foundation is full coverage, and I just have not found that full coverage foundation yet. Another pro of this foundation is it actually feels hydrating on my dry, crusty ass skin. So when I put it on, it doesn't feel like it's drying out my skin. Also, because it's not a matte finish, it's not going to suck the moisture out of my skin that's already left there. Another pro that I found is that this is easily blendable and buildable. And when I say buildable, you can go from light to medium coverage, but again, I won't go as far to saying that this is a full coverage foundation. I don't even think that it claims to be a full coverage foundation. It just says luminous finish. Another pro for this is that it does not accentuate texture or pores, especially if you're using a pore filler. If you use a pore filler, then forget it. You're not gonna have any pores on your face. I love that this does not accentuate my pores because my pores are the size of fucking potholes all the time. So I really, really like this for that. Just like it claims, it does not cake, even when you set it with powder. I haven't set this with loose powder, so I'm not really sure. I'm just not a very big fan of loose powders because they do make your face look cakey if you put too much on and leave it on too long. So I like my pressed powders, and I like using a powder puff so I don't get too much product on my face. I really like that this is not cake or look just like weird or discolored whenever you set it with a setting powder. Now, the cons for this foundation, I literally only have 3 cons for this, and that is that the shade range fucking sucks, but we already know that. So for my super duper pale princesses and my deeper, darker beauties out there, I hope you guys can find a shade. If not, I'm hoping that Tarte follows through with their promise and comes out with more shades. I know they came out with a few, but I looked at that and I was like, what the fuck is this shade range? Like, y'all still really didn't do anything. The other con that I have for this is it is not super buildable, and by that I mean you can't go past medium coverage, which kind of sucks because when something says that it's buildable, I expect it to go to like really high, but for me this is only medium coverage, so I can't really say that it's like super buildable, but it's buildable, if that makes sense. So you can go from light coverage to medium coverage, but you can't go from like medium to high coverage, which is why I included that as a con. The last con for this is that it is a little bit more on the pricier side than a drugstore. This is $39, but for me, I think it's worth $39 because it works for me. It leaves my skin feeling amazing when I put it on, doesn't accentuate dry patches, all that good stuff. Another pro that I actually forgot about this is it leaves you with a dewy finish. Even when you set it, like right now my face is set, but I don't feel matte. I don't feel like I look matte. I feel like I still look very glowy, very dewy, and I really, really I just love this foundation. Whew, y'all, it is hot as all balls in here. I have no idea why it's so hot because I turned the heater off, but for some reason I am just like fucking sweating. So the next foundation is the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation with SPF 20 Brightening Complex. Now this retails for $14.95. You can find it at drugstores. I really love this foundation, especially on my lighter coverage days, because this doesn't give you as much coverage as the Tarte Shape Tape, but I just love the way that it makes your skin feel and look. This is in the shade LC1, which is the lightest shade, and LC I believe means light cool. I always go for the cool tone foundations because I feel like I'm more of a cool tone than a warmer tone. This foundation also has the same type of doe foot applicator like the Tarte Shape Tape, and again, I see nothing wrong with that. As long as your face is clean, you shouldn't have a problem. Now this is not a great shade range at all, but it is Physicians Formula. If you don't know Physicians Formula, they don't have a lot of shades in anything. Even their powders and stuff, it goes light, medium, medium, dark. That's literally it. But when they came out with this foundation, they actually tried a little harder, and I believe they came out with 14 shades. Don't quote me on that, but they did a lot better with the shade ranges on this than all the other things that are in their brand. Now let's talk about the claims that Physician Formula has on this. It is long wearing, buildable, satin finish, lightweight with medium coverage. I really like to use this foundation on more of my natural days. By that I mean I'll put this on, I'll put a little bit of brow gel and some mascara, a little bit of blush, and I'll be on my way. So this is basically for those days where I don't want to put on a lot of makeup, I don't want a lot of high coverage, but I still want my skin to look a little better. I use this for hiding my redness, maybe a little bit of the discoloration, and to kind of just even my skin tone. This is better for when you're having one of those natural days, but you still want something on your skin, if that makes sense. My pros for this are that it is very lightweight, just like the Shape Tape. You literally feel like you're wearing nothing. Also, I love the smell of this. I don't know if it's because it has SPF in it, but it just smells, I don't know. It smells a little bit different than just regular foundation. There's like a little hint of something in there. I'm thinking that it's the SPF, but I really, really like the scent of this. Also, this is a very buildable coverage. This goes from light to maybe low medium. I wouldn't say it goes as far to being like medium coverage because again, this is one of those more lighter coverage type of foundations. And I do have to say this is a very skin-like finish. So whenever you put this on, it looks like skin, it feels like skin, and I just love that factor because I don't like wearing foundation on my natural days where it looks like I'm wearing foundation, if that makes sense. So that's why I reach for this on my more less coverage days where I'm not doing like an eyeshadow look or like a bold lip or anything like that. Just like the Shape Tape, this one has, now that I'm thinking about it, this one has a lot of similarities to the Shape Tape. It's just a lower price range and it's not as high coverage. So if you're looking something that is similar to the Shape Tape but a little bit cheaper, little lighter coverage, this would be your guy. Now again, this with the Shape Tape, it does not accentuate your pores, it does not accentuate dry patches, but it will not minimize your pores or make your skin look like super great. It's basically something to cover a little bit of those things that you don't want seen and to make your skin just look kind of like a dewy, nice, flat surface. It's not gonna go as far, like I said, to like high medium coverage or anything like that, but I do like this because again, it doesn't cling to dry patches, and that's the main reason why I'm making this video, is because no girl wants the foundation to be accentuating their dry patches or clinging to them. The cons of this foundation, the things that I don't like, is that again, the shade range fucking sucks. The second con about this is that it does not last very long if you do not set it. So if you're gonna be wearing this, you damn well better be setting this, because then it's just gonna rub off, it's gonna wipe off, it doesn't last very long at all. So be sure to set your face if you're gonna be using this. We're gonna go ahead and swatch the Physicians Formula foundation next to the Tarte Shape Tape. Now, as I don't even know if you guys can see, but the Tarte Shape Tape has dried down already, and it is like the exact shade match of the back of my skin, maybe a little tad darker, but not that much. So here is the Physicians Formula foundation. Look at it. It's almost, I think it's gonna dry down about the same shade, maybe a little darker, but as you can see, these two are very, very similar. This foundation is of course wet because I just applied it, so when we apply the next foundation, you'll see it nice and dry, and I can show you guys what color it actually dries down to. So if you guys have been watching my videos, this next foundation is gonna be like a fucking shocker, because everybody who watches my videos, you guys know, this bitch does not like being matte, like whatsoever. I just hate being matte because I have dry skin. But this foundation, for some reason, just exceeded everything that a matte foundation does that I don't like. It actually is wearable, and that is the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation. Now, I actually did a wear test, a full video on this. I'll leave that in the eye up here if you guys want to see that. I actually really like this foundation, especially for a matte foundation, because I don't know any matte foundations out there that don't cling to dry patches except this one. Now, you do have to really truly hydrate your skin before you wear this. So if you do have any dry patches, you might want to use like an exfoliant to get rid of that, and maybe really, really hydrate yourself with a really thick moisturizer. So you do have to be a little bit careful about how you prep your face. But once your face is prepped and moisturized, this will not let you down, and it will not cling to dry patches. This is in the shade Alabaster, which I believe is like the 3rd or 4th shade from the beginning. So that means there are paler shades than this, which is absolutely amazing. They did so beautifully on the shade range. Like, I was flabbergasted because this is a drugstore foundation. This retails for $15, which to me is not bad at all, because this is the first matte foundation that actually works on my dry ass skin. So I really don't care that it's $15. Like, I would totally purchase this again. I've been wearing it all the time and I love it. So let's go ahead and get into the claims of this. Now, the claims is that it's lightweight, full coverage, controls shine, matte finish, and waterproof. Again, there's that word full coverage, and I'm just gonna tell you straight out right now, this is not a full coverage foundation, because again, I told you my expectations for a full coverage foundation are very, very high. I should not be able to see any single fucking flaw show up on my face if it's gonna be full coverage, and this is not the one. Also, this has a pump dispense, which I like. Again, I like the pump, I like stick foundations, I like the doe foot applicator foundations. Honestly, as long as it's not like a shitty component, I really don't care. As long as it comes out of the bottle, it's good to go for me. Now, the pros for this are just, I love it. This actually helps minimize your pores. I noticed that when I put this on, this helped my pores so damn much, especially if you use the pore filler. I'm thinking that because the pore filler is also from NYX, maybe it worked really good in conjunction with this. Either or, this helped minimize my pores. My pores weren't like super giant or super noticeable, which I absolutely loved. Also, this does not need to be set at all, and I love that because I actually personally hate setting my face, especially if I don't have to. If you're a dry girl, you know powder makes your face more dry, and if I don't have to set my face, that's even better because that's less product that's going on my face, suffocating my skin, and I just love that you do not have to set this. Now, I know I just literally said you don't have to set this with a powder, but like I said, I have been working on this video for a while, meaning I've been doing the foundations, wearing them, and seeing like what works best, how to apply, all that good stuff. This, when you set it, it gets transfer proof, which I absolutely love. So if I don't want like this area to, you know, move around or transfer to like jackets, because right now it's about 35 degrees outside. So I wear a lot of jackets that kind of go up high on the neck, and every single time on my jacket, there's like foundation marks. With this, if you set it, it will completely become transfer proof, which I absolutely love because when I wear this, I don't have all that foundation stain like on my jacket, or if I put my hand on my face, it's not gonna like have a big missing piece on my face. You get what I'm saying? So I really, really like the fact that if you want this to become transfer proof, you just put some powder on it and you're good to go. But if you do put too much powder, you're gonna look like a cakey matte mess. So you have to be really, really fucking careful about what kind of powder you set it with and how much powder you actually put on your face. This, I have found, it does claim to be full coverage. Again, criteria is super up there for me, but this is the closest foundation that I have in my collection to full coverage. Like, this bitch is really up there. So I want to say that this is like low full coverage, if you get what I'm saying. Like, when I wear this, I still have a few little things popping out here and there. On my face here, I have these two little moles, beauty marks, whatever you want to call them. And if a foundation does not cover those, it's not full coverage. So with this one, you do see these two dots kind of peek out a little bit, but not as much as any other foundation that I have tried. So this to me is about low full coverage. If we're talking in like steps here, because you have low, medium, and then high, especially for like medium foundation, I always say it's like a low medium foundation or a high medium foundation. This is a low full coverage foundation. I know that may get a little confusing, but I'm just trying to say that it is not completely full coverage because there are still things peeking out on my skin. Now we're gonna go into the cons of this. There are a little bit more cons than the last couple of foundations that I talked about. Now, this is not a very good brush application type of foundation. You don't want to apply it with a brush because it is so tuggy, and by tuggy I mean like it dries down so fast that whenever you're blending it out with a brush, you're tugging on your skin. If you don't want them wrinkles, you don't want to be tugging on your skin. I included that as a con because I know there are people out there who prefer brushes over sponges. I am someone who will use either or, but when I use the brush for this, it just kept tugging at the skin. It dries so fast that you have to move very quickly, and I find with a brush it's really, really hard to do that. And so I advise, if you're going to use this, you want to use a sponge so you can work with it faster. Also, don't be putting a shit ton on your face before you know that you can blend it. Like, don't put a bunch on all over your face and then blend this side, because by the time you get over to this side, it's going to be dried down. That's how fast this stuff dries. So you want to be very, very careful when you're applying it to your face. If anything, I would use a palette like I have here so you know that it's not going to dry down as fast as it is on your face. One thing that I found about this is it claims to be lightweight, but that's not really the case with this. For some reason with this, I think because it dries down matte, I'm just like, I can feel it. But it's something that I can get over, you know? It's something that if I want that really high coverage and a matte finish, I'm okay with dealing with, feeling a little bit of foundation, because after a couple of minutes, you forget about it anyway. It's really not that big of a deal. So I don't really like the fact that this actually feels like there's something on your face, but it doesn't really bother me. But if you are one of those people who are like, oh my God, there's shit on my face, this is probably not the foundation for you because it might bug the crap out of you for a while. One really weird thing about this is that it's not buildable. Like, flat out, it just was not buildable for me. Every single time I tried to build it up, it would take the previous application away. So I wasn't really building it. So I was just taking away the previous layer to add on another layer that looked the exact same. If it was buildable, I believe this thing could definitely go full coverage. And when I say full coverage, I mean my expectations of full coverage, meaning that these 2 dots would not be showing through the foundation. But sadly, this is not one of those foundations that are super buildable, so I always see these 2 little dots peeking out just a smidge, but everything else on my face is like poof, gone, bitch. Like my face just has nothing on it except these 2 little dots. So if you're thinking about building this foundation, it's just not gonna work, especially if you want that previous one to kind of stick. Also, I was gonna say that this dries down really fast, which was one of my cons, and I already said that earlier when I was talking about brush application. So that is definitely one thing you have to be careful about, is that this dries down so fucking quickly, you almost don't have time to think. Let's go ahead and swatch this. Ooh, there you go. You already see that the Physicians Formula has dried down, and it is definitely more of a pink undertone, and the Shape Tape, I believe that that's like the closest shade match that I have. We're gonna go ahead and swatch that right here. Here is the swatch for the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop, and as you can see next to the Physicians Formula, it is nothing close to that shade, and this is the lightest shade for Physicians Formula. So that's really sad that the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop is like the 3rd lightest shade, and then this one over here is the lightest shade. And of course we have the Tarte Shape Tape, which almost you can barely see, because like I said, I believe that is my closest shade match, but we're gonna wait for this to dry down because I still have 2 more foundations to share with y'all. But this is the color of Alabaster for NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop. I have opened the window, turned the heater off, and nothing is giving me relief. Like, am I going through early menopause or something? What the hell's going on? I'm super freaking hot. Also, my foundation is kind of rubbing off because I keep like trying to have to dry my chin and my stash. So I'm sorry about that. All right, so the next foundation is a stick foundation. This is the Revolution Makeup Revolution Fast Base Stick. I love this because it is so easy to apply, and of course I'll get into that later, but this is in the shade F2, so it is the 2nd from the lightest shade, and this retails for $9. Now the claims on this is that it's a seamless blend and dewy finish. That is literally the only 2 claims that they have online for this foundation. I like that they kept it to 2 claims: seams blendlessly and dewy finish, because you know what? It does blend seamlessly and it is a dewy finish. I love it because I love being dewy. I like the fact that it doesn't cling to my dry patches, of course, and it doesn't make me look super oily at the end of the day, especially if you set it, it won't go anywhere. The best application for this I have found is the brush application. I really don't like using a sponge because for some reason when you put it on your face, the sponge just doesn't really move it as much as I want it to, and the brush just moves the product so much easier, and for some reason it doesn't actually leave too much of the stippling marks as like the other foundations do. I think it's because it's more of a stick foundation than a liquid foundation. I don't know, I could just be talking out of my ass for all I know, but I have noticed that this is a lot better with brush application. Also, when you use a brush, you want it to be a dense brush. My favorite brush to use with this foundation is the flat top kabuki brush. This is my BS Mall brush that I use all the freaking time. This is from Amazon. I include it in a lot of my videos because this is my favorite, cheapest flat top kabuki brush. This thing has lasted me so long. And I also have a angled flat top kabuki brush. This is also a BS Mall brush. These actually all came in a set, which I will leave down below. And last but not least, as you can see, I don't really use this one because for some reason I'm just not into the whole round brushes. I like the flat ones better, but as long as it is dense like this, this will definitely work out as well. So if you're going to apply this, apply it with a dense brush. Let's get into the pros of this. Now, of course, it is definitely easily blendable if you use a dense brush, so I really like that. I love the ease of applying this. Like, it's in a stick. All you do is you open it up, you swipe it on your face, and you blend it out. It's good to go. Another pro of this is it is a buildable coverage. It will go as far as to medium coverage, and you do have to work with it a little bit, but still, it's a great foundation. Not only that, but it is skin, but better type of skin, and I just really, really like the fact that you can build this up. So if you don't want a lot, but you still want a little bit of coverage, maybe to hide your redness or even just your under eyes. I do advise though, if you do use this for just like a spot type of conceal or under eyes, that time you do use a sponge, a soft damp sponge. I know that wasn't like a lot of pros, but this foundation just really, it's just a foundation. Like, it doesn't do anything special. It gives you that coverage that you need. It gives you a dewy glow, and that's about it. Like, and it doesn't cling to dry patches. The cons of this is that it does accentuate the shit out of your potholes. So if you have any pores, you want to use a pore filler, because if not, then it's just going to be pore city, and you don't want that. You don't want to be walking around with potholes visible on your face if you can help it. So definitely use a pore filler with with this. I say the other con about this is that, again, you can't use it with a sponge. So if you are a sponge user, you may have a little bit of trouble working with this. Those are literally my only two cons about this, is that you definitely want to use a pore filler and you definitely want to use a brush. You don't want to use a sponge because it's just going to make application way harder. So that's about it. That's the only pros and cons that I have about this. So let's go ahead and swatch this bad boy. Ooh, okay. So the NYX actually dried down a lot darker than I expected, so I may need to go a shade or two lighter, because I was really surprised when I actually put this on my face. It was super duper light, made me feel almost a little ghostly, but now that it's dried down, I can definitely see that I can go at least 1 or 2 shades lighter for the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop. And again, we have the Tarte Shape Tape, we have the Physicians Formula, and then we have the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop. And now I'll be adding the 4th foundation, which is the Revolution Stick. And as you can see, that is way lighter now that it is nice and wet, and we're gonna wait for that to dry down. But as you can see, this is more of a matching shade to me than the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop and the Physicians Formula. But we're gonna see how it tests against the Tarte Shape Tape, because I actually have never swatched all these together side by side, because this isn't a video about shade range or what's the closest shade to my face. No, this video is about the best foundations for dry skin. So that's one thing that I didn't really think of, to swatch these all side by side, which is why I'm doing it now. So the last product I'm going to be talking about is nothing like the others, and by that I mean it is a powder foundation. I know you guys are probably thinking like, what the fuck? Why would you put powder on your face? And it's because this foundation does not accentuate dry patches. It actually, I wouldn't say it doesn't accentuate, it's just that if you have dry patches on your face, it's not gonna make it look any worse, but it's also not gonna hide those dry patches either. This is just one of those foundations that if you just quickly wanna get out of the house, but you want some kind of coverage to your face, this is the foundation to go. And this is the Too Faced Cocoa Powder Foundation. I love this foundation so much, especially on like my seriously fast makeup days when my husband is like, we gotta go, like you literally have 5 minutes to do your shit. I will literally put this on, brow powder, mascara, I'm out the door. This actually retails for $34. Yes, I know it's a little bit up there with the Tarte Shape Tape. It is Too Faced, but the thing is, this thing always goes on sale. I have actually bought another one of these because I was afraid I was gonna hit pan. I have not hit pan yet, and I've been using this all the time because I'm always being rushed out the door. So the one thing about this is that it is always on sale, and for this you can get it as cheap as $14. I actually bought 2 of these because they were on sale. This is in the shade Fair, and I know it may seem like just a regular pressed powder, but this is actually foundation. This will add some coverage to your face. Some of the claims of this is that it is oil absorbing, it is non-drying, it's a matte finish, it's buildable, never looks dry, and it minimizes the appearance of pores and fine lines. I just want to show you guys like what it looks like. It literally looks like just like any other pressed powder. You open it up, you get a mirror here, you have your foundation, and then when you open it up again, you actually have one of these puffs or sponges. With this foundation, you're going to want to apply it with a dense brush. That's how I find that I get the most coverage out of this foundation. So even though you're going for a more natural look, you still want a little bit more coverage for like those red spots, or like I say, I always have like these hyperpigmentation or acne scars like on here, like the dark spots, and this will actually cover those if you use a dense brush. Now, if you want just a very light type of finish, then you can go in with a powder brush like this. This is like one of my setting brushes. There's some spots on my face that I want more coverage than others with this powder, and for those I will use the flat top kabuki brush, and for other spots where I don't really need that much coverage, like my forehead area or my temples and like down here, I just use one of these fluffy setting brushes for powders. This is my BH Cosmetics V11 brush. Love this thing. It's just so amazing. Y'all, I've been having foundation on my hair this whole time. Let's go ahead with the pros of this. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily that this is a pro per se, but this is something that I enjoy that's part of this, and that is the scent of this powder. Now, again, this is called cocoa powder, so it smells like cocoa powder, so basically like chocolate. So if you're someone who is into the scent of chocolate, a very light scent of chocolate, I might add, then you will definitely enjoy this. But if you're someone who is very, very sensitive to smells, and this is not the foundation for you because your face will smell like a chocolate bar for like the first 5-10 minutes that you apply this, and then the scent goes away. One of the other cons that I have about this is not very long lasting, which is why I like the packaging that it's in, because I can just slip this in my purse, take it with me. If you're like accidentally touched your face and maybe took a little bit of the powder off, you can reach into your purse, get it, and refix it. Or if you're like me right now who is sweating their asses off and it just happens to come off, you can just use a little sponge inside and do your touch-ups, which is kind of like a pro and a con in one, I guess you could say. The other con that I have for this is the price is a lot higher than a lot of these other foundations, and the fact that it's a powder and it's still that high kind of bothers me a little bit, but it doesn't bother me that much because I didn't pay full price for any of the cocoa powder foundations that I have. I feel like this is a little bit too high for what it does, but that could just be me and my cheap ass self talking. Another con, this takes a little bit of time to build up, so if you're in a hurry and you want a lot more coverage than just like the initial application, you're definitely gonna have to sit there and take your time building it up. So you apply it and you wait a little bit for the warmth of your skin to kind of make it, you know, one with the skin, and then you go apply another one. It's just a whole process. So I would not advise using this if you want a lot more coverage. If you're someone who is into powder foundations and you want something that's buildable, this just takes a little bit of time is all I'm saying. So it's not necessarily a con, it just might be a slight annoyance. The last little thing that I have about this that I just don't really like, it kind of goes with the whole building the coverage situation, and that is if you add too much, you will look like a cake face. So you have to be very, very careful if you're one of those people who want to build this up in coverage. You don't want to add too much because you are going to look like Mrs. Doubtfire, and you don't want to look cakey. Nobody ever wants to look cakey. So you have to be careful where you apply this. Another thing is that this foundation is so freaking soft and smooth. I love it. Now, ooh, okay, so this is the stick foundation. It has dried down. As you can see, it is a very glossy, dewy finish. And I would say that the Tarte Shape Tape is still more of a shade match than the Makeup Revolution. Then again, I don't know. The Makeup Revolution does seem to match my skin very well. It's just a lot thicker and more dewy. Even though it is this thick, it's really not this thick on the face, if that makes sense. So this may look full coverage here, but it's not full coverage on the face. So hopefully I'm explaining that correctly. But here is the Too Faced Powder Foundation. Hopefully you can see it is a little, like a smidge too dark for my skin. And of course, when this kind of sits on your skin a little bit, or if you use this with a foundation like to set your face, which I do not advise. That's one thing I forgot to mention, is you do not want to use this as a setting powder unless you have something light on like this, or else you will definitely look like a cake face. So here are the swatches of all the foundations. Hopefully you guys can see, but here we have the Tarte Shape Tape Hydrating Foundation in Porcelain that is now dried down. We have the Healthy Foundation from Physicians Formula in LC1. Then we have the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop Foundation in Alabaster. And then we have the Makeup Revolution Fast Base Stick in F2. And then last but not least, we have the Too Faced Cocoa Powder Foundation in Fair. So as you can see, even though a lot of these are the lightest shade, they're not the lightest shade, especially this Physicians Formula one. I mean, girl, look at that. That shit looks like pure orange pink type of deal going on. I forgot to mention this, but I actually mixed the Physicians Formula with the LA Girl white foundation because it is a little too, as you can see, is not a little, it's pretty much a lot darker than my skin tone. So I do add a little bit of this, and that is only because this is the lightest shade that they have, and so I have to make it work. This does not alter how the foundation works at all whatsoever. It just helps me with the shade. So I always add maybe a couple of drops of this and it works wonders. I actually forgot to mention how much product is in each foundation. Now for the Tarte Shape Tape, the Physicians Formula, and the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop, all of these have 1 fluid ounce, just like most normal foundations do. For the Revolution Fast Base Stick, you only get 0.21 ounces of this. I'm not sure if that's a lot because I only have 2 stick foundations, this one and the ColourPop one. We're not even gonna mention the ColourPop one because if you haven't seen my video, go watch it and you'll understand why. But this has 0.21 ounces, and the Too Faced Cocoa Powder Foundation has 0.38 ounces. I believe that is all I can think of to share with you guys about these foundations. I really hope that this helps some of you guys out there who are struggling to find a foundation for dry skin. find a foundation, because I know for the longest time I was struggling. I was that bitch who just could not find a foundation for my dry skin. So I was walking around with all these dry patches everywhere. Of course, it took trial and error for all these foundations. I had to try them on with different powders, and you know, of course, the weather outside is also going to have a big factor if it's like windy or whatever. But for the most part, these foundations are just my tried and true foundations. I use them all for different situations. It's up to you to decide whether these foundations work for your dry skin, because they definitely work for mine. I have everything here from a little bit higher end to drugstore, so hopefully one of these will be a good match for you guys. All right, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to click that big red button that says subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that bell notification so you actually know when I post my videos. And as always, if you have any tips, tricks, questions, comments, or if you simply want to talk shit, leave it on the comment section below, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.